And that's where we have to take accountability, right? Like, this person is already showing me they can't meet me halfway. Why am I thinking then let me meet them 80%, 90%, 99%, Like, we've got to like look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, at some point it's my fault too. It's not just them. Welcome back, you guys, to the First Gen Healing Podcast. This is a part 2 with Doctora Miriam Martinez. Hello, Miriam. Welcome
Hello,
back.
Priscilla. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this.
Yay! I'm so excited. So, I feel like this episode is a love letter to fellow highly sensitives or empaths that maybe don't know that they are, maybe are just learning that they are, or that need like someone to relate to, because both of us share some of this experience of being highly sensitive, empathetic, and we want to take you guys on a little bit of a journey of living prior to knowing that this is what you are and what you how you experience the world, and then maybe like the path to connecting the dots and recognizing what's actually happening.
So, once again, thank you for having me. I think that these topics are so relevant, and I truly wish that I had had something like this 10, 15, 20 years ago, because a lot of things would have made sense to me. So, we'll talk about, the before the journey, BTJ, before the journey of, of discovering our sensitivities.
Yeah.
Growing up, like, and first of all, like in Mexican American households, let's just clear the path that we are brought up knowing about like curanderas or brujas or alguien que te va a curar or
Una
something like that. So
limpia.
las
Yeah.
limpias, yes, yes. Okay. So it's not that we don't know about things, it's just that we truly don't know nor understand that there are so many different levels to why we
Mm-hmm.
would have needed these things. So, and I
Mm-hmm.
wish that I had known more, um, because I really think that my college experience would have been even better, or just like my 20s. My 20s would have been a very
Ooh.
different journey. So, for my middle school and high school, I was in a very small town. And there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
water, a lot of desert, a lot of grounding for me. I didn't
Okay.
know it at the time, but these things helped me.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I was away from the water. There's a lot of grass and stuff like that, but there's also a lot of energies. The college town where I went to, like, there's always like talk about it being super haunted, y que no sé qué. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about yours.
Interesting.
So, you're meeting new people, you're interacting with new people, and some people would just give me the ick. Like,
Okay.
me daba dolor de cabeza, like I'd get headaches or my stomach would feel weird. Like I definitely didn't want
Mm-hmm.
them touching me. Like, when people will like touch your back or touch your shoulder,
Mm-hmm.
I almost became like very rude. Not almost. Okay, let's be real. A lot of people would say that I was rude or a bitch or whatever. Because for some people, I just didn't like to interact with them or to touch them.
Okay.
When I got into my
So it
20s,
was the signal was loud. It sounds like the signals were
so
loud for
loud.
you.
But I thought I was just rude. I thought I was just rude.
Okay.
Okay. I
Yeah.
truly thought, and I was like, no, I have manners. Like, I just don't like people in my space. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so when I was in my 20s and you're having to interact for work and stuff like that, giving handshakes was so hard for me. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
disrespectful, especially as an educator. You're meeting a principal, you're meeting this person, you have to shake their hands. But some people would just give me this feeling like, and you just feel it. I can't even,
Mm.
like, maybe I would, for like a day or two, feel like depressed or anxious, tired, super
Okay.
tired, drained. Or you'd go and you think that you're going to have a good time somewhere, but you come back so exhausted.
Yeah.
Like, you're
Okay.
just drained. Like, and I would get very, very bad migraines. I've suffered with like migraines my whole life, but it would just be worse. and I didn't know what was wrong with me. My mom got to the point where she was like, "Muchacha, no tienes un tumor en la cabeza?" Like, I'm like, I
Okay.
don't know, mom. Like, I'm going nuts. And so for
Yeah,
me, that's how it was until about 2020.
in your 30s.
Yes.
When you were talking to me about the handshake thing, there's something that I realized looking back. When I went into that job that I mentioned in part one, which was like HR consulting, and oh my gosh, the reason that HR consulting was a dream for me was because you got to work with different businesses of all types of industries.
Mhm.
So, like, as an HR professional, this was like a training ground. You got to just be exposed to all kinds of things, right? Now, that's logical HR career profession minded Priscilla. At that time, I did not know I was an empath. I didn't know I was highly sensitive. So, I have this built up like expectation of this job. And I'm new, and the caseload or the workload is minimum 65 clients. So, in order to go from 0 to 65, as a new person, you start meeting 3 to 4 new clients every single week, onboarding them, getting to know them. That's. Imagine it's like
Oh
over
my
and over again.
gosh.
And I, at that time, interpreted as like, oh, this job, I wanted it so badly. Like, it makes me nervous, right? It makes me anxious. And that's how I would interpret it. And what it entails to onboard a client is you go to their job site. So I was going to restaurants, law office, dentist, vet, just different things randomly, right? Every single week, these are your new clients. These are your new clients. And as a professional, like, you're supposed to create a connection in that first meeting, obviously, so that they feel good about the couple thousands they just spent on, this service. And so, like, I became good at creating instant connection, or within 1 to 2 meetings, creating some sort of relationship there. And I can tell you, like, now looking back, how different I see it through the lens of, oh, I was an empath. Oh, I was highly sensitive. But I'll pause there, and maybe we can go to your 2020, and then I'll tell, I'll pick up
So,
on my story.
but here's my question. How often were you
Yeah.
having headaches and how often did you feel drained?
I didn't have headaches, but I had a lot of anxiety. So it was like
Oh,
a buildup essentially. So at first it was like anxiety driving to the place. So it got to the point where I had my peppermint oil y me lo metía en la nariz yo con like, super cold air yo on my way to my client. I say, like, sometimes I wonder if people driving next to me thought que estaba haciendo, the other thing, because I would put like peppermint oil on my finger and like put it up my nose. And for me, it was like grounding because I would feel so anxious that I would start to feel a little bit disembodied, like a little floaty. And I needed to not feel that way. But it built up to the point where I would wake up como con asco. And it was like como que that's what physically was happening. And again, personally, I interpreted it as like, oh, I'm really nervous for this job. I just want to do a good job. When I explained it to other people, like, ay, es que no te lo tomes tan en serio, like te vas a acostumbrar. But little did they know, little did I know, it had something to do with the job, but it was more energetic than actual nerves for the job. Yeah.
that's so relatable because again, and this goes back to being always told that we just push a little harder and you're gonna get there and just you're fine. And I
Yeah.
think when people don't feel what we feel, they truly can't understand
Mhm.
because so
Mhm.
many times I would have to meet people and they're kind of grouchy at first. But me and my personality, I'm like, "Do, do, 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 do," like you could like me, not like me. We still have to interact, so let's have a good time. And I would leave like the environment and they're in a much better mood and I would feel drained.
Mm. Mhm.
And it was my 2020 journey where my friend was like, "Girl, you're a light worker." She was like, you're an empath. You are feeling and you're trying to
Mm.
fix these people's moods." I was all, well, kind of that kind of makes sense now. Right? Because like
Yeah.
you're pouring your all into this meeting and you want to have a good impression. So when you're leaving, they're in a much better mood. You've made them feel better. but how are you feeling now? And that's why I asked, is because I was feeling drained. Yours
Yeah.
manifested, as you're saying, as anxiety. And it could,
Yeah.
anxiety is definitely up there, because I'd be like dysregulated would be the best word to use.
Dysregulated. Yeah.
And
And
so,
energetically, like for me, I would say as an empath, you, it's like I meshed my energy with theirs.
yes, yes.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So, like, I was
Yes.
not grounded in who I was and, like, this is my energy and I show up. It was, like, almost it's hard to explain it, right? But, like, as an empath, and those of you listening, I think it's so interesting because I interpreted empathy as, like, "Oh, I como que I get sad when people get sad," like, or I can put myself in other people's shoes. But
Mhm.
energetically, what we don't know is that we literally put ourselves in their shoes.
But it's that realization, and I think that's so exciting, is like that we're not alone in this journey, first of all, that it is real. Other people experience it in different ways. And it's that
Yeah,
you really are walking in their shoes. You you feel it. And I don't care what anyone tells me, and that there is no quantification of, like, when you can't quantify it, but you feel it, because you just like
yeah,
your energies, it's almost like you want to hug them energetically. And therein
yes,
lies the problem, is you're giving too much of yourself, and it's not
yeah.
reciprocated, but then they're draining you and your personality and who you are and all of these things. And I'm a firm believer in nadie me va a sacar de la mente, so that, like, there are people that leech off of that. They,
Ooh,
they're
we can talk
those
about
energy
leeches in a little.
vampires. Yeah,
Yeah.
it will drain you. And so for me, it was actually one of my sorority sisters. We're on Facebook, and she added me to this Facebook group. And I was like, that's weird. Like, I don't think I've ever given off the impression that I'm into, like, the witchy stuff. Like, I am. But she was like, oh, she's like, I'm just, adding you in. I'm going to be starting my stone business. I was like, stones? Like, I'm in. And I'm
Mm.
in this thing. And at the time, the girl, Ariel, she's still my friend. She's still my consultant. If anyone's ever interested, I will put in the plug. I'm putting in the plug. Okay. Holler. Um, she helped me so much to realize, I'm going to say, what was wrong with me, in that I
Okay.
didn't know that I was an empath and that I was feeling these things. She helped me to
Mhm.
understand it and to try to start healing, because
Mm.
when you're so drained, it can affect you mentally, physically, emotionally. It manifests as depression, anxiety, all these other things, right? So I'm in
Mhm.
this Facebook group, and they're like, "Oh, like, this week's sale, like, I'm gonna do these stones," and then she starts talking about, like, protection stones. I'm like, protection
Mhm.
stones, stones for anxiety. Wait, lavender, peppermint, lemon are used for protection, but they help me and they make me feel better.
Mm,
And then I
mhm.
was like, oh, they do make us feel better, because they're protecting our energies. And so for me,
Mhm.
that was donde, just being in that group, learning. And I'm not gonna lie, like, she was into, like, she does tarot readings and other stuff like that. And I was mesmerized. I was like, this is so cool. But it was because they were literally teaching us along the way, like, hey, have you ever dealt with stones? Try it out. And the more I started, like, buying, like, girl, I have healing stones everywhere. Like, you will see, like, random
Mm.
towers, little stones in my daughter's rooms. Like, I even let them play with them. And sometimes they go and they're attracted to a certain color. So I'll always look up the
Mhm.
color. Like, why did they want this one? And it's because there is, a reason why. Stones have their properties, if you believe in that. And if this isn't for you and this sounds like total woo woo, I get it. Because, like I said, for up until my late 30s, I didn't know about it. But I can tell you
Mhm.
that it's made me feel better. I could tell the difference in when I have protection stones and I'm around people, and when I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Di so, like, we moved into crystals, por ejemplo, but it sounds like this person calling that out in you was like, ooh, it opened up a window or a door, right? Of like knowledge, like, oh, interesting. Okay. This is what it's called. This is what it might be. Had you been doing work that was getting you more in touch with your body and your body sensations up until that point? Or as soon as that door of knowledge was opened, everything clicked in? Like, what was that experience like for you?
Um, I'd say that throughout all my 20s, I was doing work. I just didn't know what I was doing. Like I did it like,
Okay.
and I'll say that because it'd be like I'd be trying to like at that point, like my ex-husband and I were so successful, we were able to buy like a beautiful house with a pool. So I was always in the pool, always wanting
Mm,
to be outside in the sunlight and
mhm,
stuff like that. And that's part of grounding, right? Like, so I didn't realize that
mhm,
like the things that I was looking for and yearning for,
mhm.
um, but for some reason I was doing it. I was wanting to not have to physically interact with a lot of people.
Okay. Oh, okay, okay. Yes, yes, yes. Wait, sorry. You just made me remember that in when I was 25, I started going to the ocean a lot. So I quit this job, right? This consulting job. And in that summer, I would just drive myself to the ocean and I would literally just sit there. No hacía nada, no. It was just a weird point in my life because, to maybe other 25-year-old people, like, why do you do that? I don't know. I couldn't even explain it. I was just like drawn to it. So cool. So you were going into the pool, like it was doing something for you
Yes.
too.
Absolutely, and I'm
Okay.
talking about we were using the pool like January to like almost October, November. So we were paying for that heating bill because we would have to warm it up
Okay.
for the girls, but it just made me feel better. And I thought, oh, it's because I'm
Mm,
exercising or something. So it was almost like our bodies, my body, your body, right? It was like like trying to show you what was going to help you feel better. I stopped physically interacting with a lot of people, especially, and it's the COVID time, right? So then it's around
okay.
COVID. So, and then I started not having so much anxiety. It's almost like the fog starts to clear. Like I had this veil.
Mhm.
I felt very foggy for like 2, 3 years, where I was mechanically going through the motions. I was a mom. I was taking care of my girls. We were working, but it was very mechanical.
Mhm.
And so when I met Ariel and I started understanding more about
Mhm.
this other world that exists, it started making sense to me. And I wasn't
Yeah.
apologizing for it. I wasn't, outright like saying what I was doing, but I started consulting with her and journaling and just truly like diving back into myself. I would say that like I was like, who am I? And then, I
Mhm.
within like a year or two of that is when I ended up separating from my husband. And we, that whole thing happened. But it really helped me. And also learning about chakras, because like she was very much into, and then she also taught me about like healing frequencies. And it's as simple
Okay.
as like, okay, like, why are we attracted to certain music? And she was like, well, she's like, it might be because of your heritage, like los tambores. The tambores are healing. And I
Yeah.
was all, okay, wait, like, and so, and it sounds so crazy, but it's like my body was learning, like I was starting to listen to like music I hadn't to listen to in years. I used to be huge into reggaeton and the beats and things like that in Spanish music. And for many years, I kind of didn't really listen to Spanish music.
Uh-huh.
And then I started going back to it. Like it just started feeling like my body started feeling better. Like I would listen to music, and people might say, oh, it's elevating and releasing endorphins. Psychologically, you're doing something for yourself. Could be all of these things. But when we really start
Mhm.
to learn, it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So elements, music, what you're consuming, the amount of people you're around, like you start to recognize they all really do impact how you feel and the fog that's created, right? So, yeah, I think for me, the fog consisted of, so for example, I realized when I would go out, that would be a really draining experience. Go out and like drinking, my body started like a hard no on alcohol. It started to reject it so bad. It was like, I just want to be normal body, like, or or whatever, like, let me be normal. So I would try and go out and it was like a hard no. So I started to pay attention, like, oh, I don't even, it's not worth how I feel like the next day to what I experience, going out. or speaking with people. I think naturally I thought I wanted to be really social because that's quote unquote normal. But I realized like a lot of people, they just talk and they don't even listen to themselves. It's just like we're speaking. I mean, this is more energetic stuff también, but they're speaking from a void rather than from like a grounded space. So it's just like when you are an empath or someone that's a good listener and you're just taking in people's void, like conversation. How do I make that make more sense? I perceive it as like from a black hole. It's like a black hole that they speak from y no tiene nada de sentido because sometimes they're not hearing themselves, they're just repeating stuff. And
Mhm.
so that I think we can tie it to like the leeching, right? I see it sometimes as energetic leeching for empaths. There are people who just like to speak and be heard and be heard. They never hear you back. They never fully hold you
Yes.
back, right? Like you
No.
hold space for them and you're there for them and they don't know how to do that back. And I started to recognize that in my relationships like, oh, wow, I'm just an ear to you or a shoulder, Like, but when do I ever get to lean back in?
Yeah. So all of that, like, girl, you're trauma unlocked, trauma unleashed, because because it is you realize that alcohol can sometimes be more damaging in those
Mm,
situations.
mhm.
And then you become people's therapists. Like, you'll be out, you don't know someone, all of a sudden you know their whole life story,
Yeah,
and they leave there feeling so much better, and you're drained
yeah.
because they've leached onto your energy. They needed someone to listen, and they you could have told them that you are in a worse situation, but they didn't care. They unloaded
Mhm,
trauma dumping, right? Which, by the way,
mhm.
can we please be mindful of when we trauma dump on others? Like, I now learned to ask my friend, like, hey, do you have the capacity?
Ooh, I love that, me too.
And right,
Yeah,
like, because
we
girl,
ask each other.
I'm not even gonna lie. I think that when we're empaths, like, we really feel like no one is there for us because we're so used to being there for others, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and tying into our heritage, we are fixers. So I felt like it
Mhm.
was a double whammy. Y que nadie like understood.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
One thing that, like, helped me see that super clearly was because, I went through hard stuff, but when my sister was diagnosed with cancer, it was the first time that a lot of people around me made space for my stuff. Never like I started to realize it though. I started to realize, and it was short lived, like como que they would hear me out for like 5 minutes and then like dump their stuff again, right? And my system was so on overdrive that I started to have less capacity for others. So I started to be like, either I overdo it and I burn out, or I start to use my voice. Like, mijita, I know this is scary to set a boundary, but it's time. That's how I felt it. Like, it's time, mujer, because otherwise, like, you're gonna, no say, you're not gonna be good mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, right? Right. So it was almost like I was put against the wall. Like, either you start saying sorry, I can't hear you out, or I don't want to talk to you, etc., or you're just gonna feel worse and worse and worse. So it was that extreme for me to finally be like, oh, I can set a boundary. I need to like look out for myself because clearly these people, even though they love me, they don't know that they're hurting me in their continuous like dump.
and then did you ever go through where how dare you set a boundary?
Of course.
How dare you want to protect your mental state or your energy or your time? So then we're
Yeah.
vilified. Then we have to go through the
Yeah.
villain, that time frame where we're the villain. And there's
Hmm.
one thing I've learned. It's like, if you need me to be the villain of your story, I will. We're good. I'll be that villain
Yeah. Yeah.
because we have to learn to protect ourselves. That's so crazy because it's like it's so parallel to my life where you're like, if I don't speak up now, it's gonna drive me insane. And I really attribute it to like journaling, working with, Ariel and other people, my therapist this year. Like, you're always learning you're unlocking a different stage. It's really
Mhm.
how I see it. It's like, okay, next level
Yeah.
unlocked. We're raising our vibration. We're attracting different things. And
Yeah.
don't forget that with the attracting the great things, something's always going to want to come and try to take that from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wanna name something that just came up too, like, it doesn't always feel evil what someone else is doing, right? So, like, for example, I had this aunt that she would call, and we would talk for, like, 5 hours. Every single time we talked on the phone, it was, like, 5 hours, and there was a time in my life where it felt like a good conversation, like, I felt like, "Oh, we can talk about so much." But when I started to, like you said, I started to look inward, so I did journaling every morning, I would burn my sage, pull an oracle card, journal. I started to, like, get in tune with my own energy. Then I would have a conversation with her, and that's where I started to notice, like, whoa, I feel drained. Whoa, she speaks most of the time and doesn't actually listen. And so it's not like she's this evil lady, let's say, right? Like, but I started to recognize energetically what she does. And for example, now our relationship has changed so much, and I am the villain in her story because I pushed her away. But I recognized, as good intentioned as she doesn't know how it feels to be me. So
Mhm.
I can't just ignore my signals just so that I'm not a villain in her story, you know? Um, I
Yeah.
have to put me first.
In my last relationship, I don't think that he realized at first, like, how he just kept taking and taking and taking and taking.
Mm,
Um, and I was so giving and giving and giving because that's just who I am. And I would try to cleanse myself and watch my energy and do things, and then I would feel better. But it was almost like he needed me to heal something in him. And so we
mhm.
need to we need to be discerning of that too. Because that
Yeah.
that relationship ended up going very south. And I realized that he just did not have the capacity to see me. I knew that, but I didn't recognize it. And so for
Mm,
you to be like, okay, like you started pinpointing and journaling and you recognize that some person just doesn't have that capacity, and how do you approach this? I think that, like, that's a crossroad that we all face many, many times,
mhm,
because it's like, okay, like, what do I do here? Do you allow this person to walk over you? Do you limit your contact and interaction with them? Do you
right.
ignore it? You know what I mean? And it's so
Yeah.
important because it's really also that self awareness. Because even having
Mhm,
been through, like, my journey for years, and then having been in an almost 3-year relationship with this dude where we lived together, had a house together, our kids interacted, you know what I mean? It's so hard to realize that you're like, I'm talking and they're not listening. Or better yet, they're usually the ones that are doing all the talking.
mhm.
And it's like
Yeah,
you're like, it's almost like your aunt needed your energy.
yeah. Yeah, so energetically, I would consider it like an energetic leech. And that's why I said, like, it's not maybe a bad guys, good guys. It's
Mhm.
a just this is my reality and this is how I experience life now, like maybe in the past I wasn't in tune with my body. I really wasn't. I wasn't in tune with my needs. Like truly wasn't. I masked so much of being the good hija, the good sobrina, the good everything. But now I'm no longer that person. So like, sorry, tia, like, I'm sorry. And till this day, my mom and her sister talk a lot. And it's almost like there is this boundary, and maybe sometimes I lean in and I'll say, "Oh, como estás?" whatever, but it's no longer like I'm gonna self-sacrifice so that you don't think I'm what you think I am, It's like, no, like I'd rather you keep your story about me, I keep mine, and I feel good energetically. Um, and what I started to think about as you were talking about your ex is sometimes because we are naturally this person, we don't recognize that sometimes, like, I think the gift is when you learn to give from your overflow, But
Mm.
as empaths, sometimes we give from our own empty cup. So like, where are you giving from? From your wound or from, the healed aspect of you? And sometimes we're so used to giving from our wound that's why we disempower ourselves and we see others as disempowered. So like, oh well, they need me to feel better, to give them the advice, and the reality is like, if you continue that, then the healing that you're giving is actually like, it almost isn't as powerful, because the only powerful healing comes from within. Does that make sense? I went on a
Again,
tangent, but
I feel like you talk to my therapist, okay? So
nah.
because girl, like let me tell you how freaking amazing what you just said was. Like let's dissect the fact that are we giving from a wound? So I'm going to say 9 out of 10 times we are. Okay? So
Mhm.
then that means that we then have to reflect and go back and address those wounds.
Yeah.
And you didn't even know that that affected you, that your upbringing affected you. And this is where it ties in, like depending on your family dynamics. Like my parents were separated, I didn't have a relationship with my father. I was just starting to get a relationship around like 2020 COVID time, and he passed I think January of 2022. Okay, so
Okay.
and there were so many questions like that were left unanswered, and I always thought like, okay, like I healed through this, I forgave him for what he did and didn't do, um I'm fine. And
Mhm.
then looking back, as I found with my therapist this year, is she was like, does the relationship you did or didn't have with your father, do you feel like you overcompensate? Excuse me now? Excuse me? The attack that just happened there? What? She's like, when you're loving, she was like, it seems like, I was like, I love, like, if I love you, I'm going to give you my all. And she was like, and therein lies the problem.
Mm.
You're giving your
Mhm.
all. You're losing yourself. Why?
Mhm.
And I said, come out. So then it was back to having to deal with those childhood wounds,
Yeah.
abandonment issues. Girl, I didn't even know I had abandonment issues because I'm like, I don't need nobody. Wrong.
Mm.
Clearly I had some issues there. Um, what did my friend, the therapist, tell me? Like, my attachment style. Oh, God. Ugh, if you don't know about attachment style, please learn. Please find a therapist and work through that. Because I was like, dang. Like, it ties in so much. And so we try to rationalize these things. But I think that when we are empaths, we feel so much more. We hurt so much deeper. We internalize things so much more. And it's hard for people that don't understand us to even try to understand that, like, I don't have it in me to be there for you. I am so drained. There is nothing in my cup. There's nothing. And that was a very hard, and I'm gonna call it a beautiful lesson that I finally feel like I learned it this year completely. Like no more universe. I promise I don't need any more trials.
Please.
No, please, Kay. Like I don't need to. I heard this quote. It's like you don't need to continue to heal. You need to be able to now have a safe place to live.
Mm.
You know, where
Mhm.
you're not dysregulated, where
Yeah.
you're energetically, you're not feeling drained. Like you need to feel safe energetically.
Mhm.
I was like that.
Yeah.
That's I'm at that point. I'm at that point.
Woo! And it's so cool, like, because as you guys are listening, I feel like when I first learned that I was an empath, it almost felt like I felt a little bit weak, quote unquote. So I also grew up being like the strong one, puédelo todo, right? And I feel like when I started to tap into authenticity, sometimes like authenticity leads you down paths that you didn't know were there for you. And it almost feels like, no, 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 I'm not that. Like, no, but I'm this, but not that, right? And then life is showing you like, no, yeah, but you are that. So I think like for those of you listening, if you're for some way, like for some reason feeling like this takes away something from you, I hope that you also take away that, or recognize that it's actually your power. It actually is very beautiful. What you're capable of doing, putting yourself in other people's shoes, can be very healing, but first you have to heal yourself. I think that's like the lesson, right? Like we have to learn how to create that safety that you're talking about for you first. And
Mhm.
life will put you like, because then, maybe we get into hermit mode where like, oh, well, then I'm not going to have friendships and I'm not going to have a relationship and I'm not going to, because like I'm going to protect me. But the reality of life is like, you do have to coexist with other people. And so it's like the practice of how do I come back to me over and over? How do I create that safety in my circumstances over and over again? And dare to challenge your own thoughts. Like in that scenario where I moved to Tennessee to be with my sister during her chemotherapy. I think logical Priscilla, like previous Priscilla, would have thought that's the last place where you set boundaries because you're there for your sister, you're there to like help. It's a highly emotional moment. And in fact, it's exactly where I learned to set boundaries, where I was like, oh, I wake up in the morning, I take care of me first. Yes, my sister, she would like sleep downstairs. She needs me, she needs her breakfast. But if I don't wake up and do this for me, I know energetically like no voy a estar bien, because it's just like you wake up
Oh,
and you give and you
yes.
give. So it was very weird for me, but I loved the idea of challenging myself. Like it feels wrong. Am I actually doing something wrong? No. Okay, cool. Let's practice this. As opposed to waking up like, what do you need? How can I be there for you? Like, hey, take a pause. I imagine for mothers también, like, that there's this like tug of war of like, can I actually do that 5 minutes after I wake up or no? And I imagine some days no, but sometimes see, like dare to challenge what you've
Yes.
learned, what you're conditioned to do.
Gosh, please, if anyone takes anything from that, it's like, and I'm taking that from you too, because you said it like as a mother. And I noticed on the mornings, like if I wake up late and I'm running late, it sets a negative tone for my daughters because I'm rushing them because of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I needed those extra 20 minutes of sleep, but really what I should have done is gotten up and cleared my mind so that I wasn't rushing them. And it can be as
Mm-hmm.
simple as that. And what we do for ourselves sets the tone, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I thought I needed to sleep more, but then I know I'm gonna be rushing. So instead of doing that, it's like rewiring ourselves that like you think you need the extra 20 minutes of sleep, but what do you need? The 20 minutes of sleep, or do you need those 20 minutes to get your stuff done first? Because it's gonna set
Mm-hmm.
the pace and the tone for your day, you know? and
Yeah.
and good for you. That is freaking amazing though. Like I'm not even gonna lie, like I need to really bank that lesson, because even now it's so hard to divide myself. I have three daughters, and just having to make sure that they're ready and they're good to go. I sometimes forget, even now I forget about myself, or I push
Yeah.
myself to the side. And I think it's so important also in that, like, we need to listen to what our bodies are saying. We need to listen to what that energy is saying, because energy doesn't lie. And I think that, like, you you brought up a point in that, like, your sister has certain needs, right? That energy is there, it, but you also need to discern it too. Your aunt needed to talk to you in certain ways, but you had to be discerning of what ways she was
Right.
requiring your energy. And I think
Yeah.
that that's something that we're on a teeter totter, almost like we're up and down, right? We're trying to find that balance, but it's so important. And I think especially with people that we interact with daily, or our partners in a relationship, we need to learn to listen to what the energy is saying. And I say that because my body began dysregulating last year, and I knew something was up. And
Mm.
it took me a while because I was trying to rationalize it.
Mhm.
The body doesn't lie. Your energy doesn't lie. And so you need to, when you feel that ick, you need to really delve and be like, okay, what is causing it? And it doesn't have to be a bad thing. it could be like maybe you gave too much energy to this person or to this project or to these people that you just interacted with, right? But I do
Mhm.
think that if anything, like that was like the most important lesson I've learned is that like by now when we're empaths and we were learning about it and we learn to recognize like what things do, we need to not push our own needs to the side or what we're hearing, because it's almost like we hear this like, I hear what you're saying, body, I hear what you're saying, energy. Don't discount it. Don't discount it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's make sure that we are working to stay true to ourselves, because that's we
Mhm.
are the ones that betray us the most, let me tell you.
Yes. Ooh, there's so much, I thought of like 10 other things that we can talk about and expand on, like because you mentioned like your body started to be dysregulated, right? And I think sometimes what happens is that since we're taught to aguantar mucho,
Mhm.
we don't believe ourselves in the small things, so it gets to the big signals. And that's a lesson in and of itself. Like when let's say you're recognizing these things, it's like, well, how do I know? Start believing yourself in the tiniest of sensations, because usually by the time someone schedules a session with me, for example, it's like their system's going like alarms are going off. But it's not that, oh, it's because I don't know, my intuition doesn't tell me. No, your intuition's been telling you.
Yeah.
You're just you're just used to not listening to it until the big things happen, or until it's screaming at you, and then you feel this urgency, right? Or like it feels dysregulating, because yeah, then there's this whole other thing. But yeah, it's like if you're learning about this, start listening to yourself in the small signals. Like if someone tells you or someone calls you and you feel that a pit in your stomach and you feel like not picking up, don't pick
Yes.
up. Call back in 3 minutes. Take deep breaths. Okay, I was in the middle of something, now I'm sat, and maybe I'm going to give them 10 minutes of my time. So I look at the time, okay, pick up. All right, sorry, I have to go. Like it could be easy ways of listening to yourself, because it makes sense since we're not used to listening to ourselves. We think it's all or nothing, big or
Mhm.
small, but it's like it can be something that works for you. Does that make sense? I know
Yes.
I kind of,
That
okay.
makes so much, no, absolutely. That like, and you nailed it. It's like because part of us wants to still be there for the people that we love and that love us. But it's
Mhm.
giving yourself that permission to say, I'm going to do this, but on my time. I'm going to do this in smaller increments. And I think
Mhm.
that's where it really is that boundary setting. And it's okay. It's okay to not be around the people that you're used to being around. And it's okay that if you want to go out, but you know that after, you know, Melissa and Mariana and whoever, like once they're on their fourth drink, okay, their personality changes. Hey, you know what? After two drinks, I have a project or I'm just not feeling it. I've got to go. It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay because it's like sometimes it's like we still want to interact and have fun, but we need to know that where other people may not have limits and they don't care or they're
Exactly.
not recognizing, it's okay to put limits and say, I'm just not going to be out all night. I don't
Right.
want to do this. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Yeah,
be with,
like you
yeah.
can, but I don't have to. Like, yeah. No me tengo que andar estirando to the point where I almost
Yeah.
break every time for someone else? Yeah.
Oh, girl. Like, how dare you? How dare you not like exhaust yourself? And there's times where I'm a bad influence too. I'll be like, hey, girl, like, do you want to go out tonight? Let's go have a couple drinks. And my friend will be like, girl, I work at 6 in the morning. I'm like, I know, but if we're home by 11 or midnight, and sometimes we'll do it. And sometimes we just don't have it in us. And that's okay too. It's
Yeah.
okay to be like, we
Yeah.
tried. We know it's not going to work. It was good in theory.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention también is like resentment. So like I think the language that sometimes overgivers speak in is resentment. So when we aren't listening to those signals, we do get to a point where we start to resent others. But if we want to heal that, first we have to take accountability in like when I feel this way, is my natural instinct to give more or to protect my peace, right? Because sometimes our natural instinct is I don't feel reciprocated, let me give more. And that's where we have to take accountability, right? Like, this person is already showing me they can't meet me halfway. Why am I thinking then let me meet them 80%, 90%, 99%, you know? Like, we've got to like look at ourselves in the mirror and say, okay, at some point it's my fault too. It's not just them, you know?
Girl, I don't think I told you about my relationship. Why are you dissecting my life? And
Oh, well, that's the intuitive prima part.
it's
I
right,
yeah.
like, mira. And it's so freaking true. Like, can we please normalize that if someone is breadcrumbing us, don't put in more effort, because that's when you start to lose yourself. You start to reject your intuition. You're rejecting what your body and your mind and your gut, like everything that it's telling you. Because I was that person, because I had already had a failed relationship, like a whole failed marriage, right? So when I did decide to date again, and I think this is so important because I feel like oftentimes we do it in the name of love. I love this person so much. I'm so loyal. Look at me be loyal. Let me be more loyal. Let me be more for you. And then when reality comes crashing down, because the fact of the matter is there are certain people that are takers and they love how you make them feel without reciprocating, because they've shown you who they are. But we have denied our intuition for the sake of, in the name of love, that they're working on themselves. And then we're just like, we try to give and give. And if they feel that, if they try to make it seem, because some people will manipulate you and be like, well, I work all the time and I don't have time. And you're like, fuck, I work too. But like, let me be more understanding. Like, I have my 3 daughters and I work full time and I'm in my doctoral program, but I must have done something. So, because I'm always considered to be too much. So let me give even more, you know? And that was such a
Yeah.
hard realization, because looking back, I'm like, the writing was on the wall. Like, I saw it probably last summer. And so something was nagging at me. My body would reject my partner. Like, there were times I didn't even want to look at him.
Mm,
Like, he'd get home from work and I'm
mhm.
like, that's weird. Like, and I wasn't paying attention. I
Okay.
wasn't paying
Yeah.
attention. And
Yeah.
what it turned out to be is he wasn't just my partner. He was other people's partner,
Mm,
you know?
mm.
And that betrayal hurt so
Wow.
bad, because I was just like, Miriam, you felt it. I didn't recognize it for what it was because I didn't give myself the time to dive into that, because I was so busy with everything else. And I think that that's where really we have to, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or journaling. I think if I had been journaling, I would have probably recognized it for what it was. And so
Mm,
we learn these things, but then we get comfortable in life. And it's like, well, we forget to, like, that this is what got us here in the first place, and that it's a maintenance thing. You have to
yeah.
maintain. So if anyone takes anything, or during this learning journey, if you're even interested in learning about it, whatever tools you're using to get to where you get to, don't throw those tools away when
Mm,
you get there.
mhm,
Just sharpen them.
mhm.
Just sharpen them.
Yeah. Keep up with them. Ooh, man, yes. It's crazy. I mean, even that, right? Like, you were in a place of overgiving, overextending, and meeting this person even further, and yet, you would never think like, oh, and they still have capacity for someone else, for something else, you know? But that's the reality. That's why I think that's why the root of it is like, take care of you, heal you, give from a place of overflow, not overextend. Because at the end of the day, yeah, if someone does you wrong, like, they're going to deal with that, but you deal with what you did, right? You deal with
Yeah.
the signals you didn't hear, with the ways that you overextended. So it's crazy. It's crazy
And
stuff, and it's crazy how your body kind of told you.
yes, and the resentment, because, and I meant to tie
And the
this back into the
resentment.
resentment. The
Yeah.
resentment I felt towards him. Le menté la madre. Le dije a todos lo que hizo. I done told all his friends and family what he did to me. And they were just like, I was giving so much energy to being angry and resentful when I had to take accountability too. And that
Yeah.
he had shown me that he did not have the capacity. And I didn't believe him.
we have a lot of grace and empathy for that version of you because there's layers to it, like we said, right? There's like I had a divorce, I have 3 kids, like there's a lot that goes into it. But I think that yes, have grace and empathy for yourself, but also do recognize like everything is a mirror, you know? So if you're like overextending for loyalty, are you being loyal to yourself? If you aren't getting attention from someone else, are you giving yourself attention? Love. If you want them to see you so badly, are you seeing yourself? Maybe not. I
Oof.
think, you know?
Yes, girl. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, like, prima, mira, me leíste mi libro because it's so true and it's so relevant. It's so relevant because it's like we're so set on pointing that finger out, but what are we doing? And it's not that like we're not gonna say what we're doing wrong. It's like, or what didn't we do enough for ourselves?
For ourselves.
You
Yeah,
know?
definitely.
And you
Yeah.
girl, you nailed it. Like, thank you for this therapy session.
You're welcome.
But
No,
it's
but yeah, go ahead.
no, it's just I'm amazed at finding someone else that understands this journey, that truly gets it, that sees it, the validation, right? The but really it's an understanding that like sometimes it's like we could say, ay, por pendeja nos pasó esto, por eso. It's because we didn't know, we didn't know. But when we did know, it's because we still didn't love
Mhm.
ourselves enough to focus on ourselves. Because why?
Yeah,
We were giving from a wounded place. I gave what I didn't have simply because when I didn't have it, I wish someone would have done the same for me.
right.
So we need to
Yeah.
heal that part, that child in us that wants it and give it to ourselves and give it to that child and be like, it's okay if no one else does. I'm going to do it, but I need to give you so much that when I give to others, you're not going to miss it, that you're still receiving.
Yeah. Ah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a beautiful way to end it. Yes, like, and
Yes.
even when I give to myself, you'll be taken care of. So you don't
Yes.
have to worry. It's not from a place of scarcity. Wow. Okay. This was such a beautiful conversation. I hope that those of you
Thank you.
listening feel validated too, you know, because I think that these are things that don't always have a place in the world to like talk about them in this way to this depth.
Yeah.
But I know that so many people listening and that I interact with are going through this. So thank you, Miriam, for being willing to, you know,
No.
open up and go there
Yes.
and let me call you out a little and you call me out a little. Cause yeah, that's what we need, right? Like people that we can resonate with and also reflect back to each other. Yes, and here's accountability. Yes, and here are the tools. So we hope that you guys, you know, gain some wisdom gems throughout this conversation. We are
Definitely.
going to wrap it up because I know I've taken so much of your time, Miriam. But thank you so much. Do you want to, I don't know if you want people to follow
If
you.
anyone has any questions, like as an educator, as a first gen, sometimes we
Mm,
don't know how to even do the FAFSA. So for the young listeners, right? Or you have a younger sister or you have a daughter, a granddaughter that needs help educationally, I promise you that I'm okay with answering questions because
okay.
that's one of the reasons I got into education is and like I told you in the other podcast is like someone helped me. They helped me so much and they
Yeah.
believed in me. And it's I already have this knowledge that will literally take me 10 minutes to help you that could change your life and get you money for college instead of having you have to go look and be so upset that you don't know how to do it. I promise that like when we give back to our community, we're lifting our community. And someone lifted me up and
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to return the favor always.
Woo, beautiful. We need community in these times. So thank you. Bye.